Comparing American military casualties across history, the Civil War bar reaches 620,000 deaths, dwarfing previous conflicts. To understand this scale against the 1860s U.S. population, that toll equates to the sudden, violent removal of 2% of the entire country. The nation's infrastructure was entirely unequipped to process this volume of bodies. In the immediate aftermath of major battles, the dead were often left unburied where they fell, strewn across fields and farmland. With the federal government overwhelmed by the logistics of mass death, ordinary citizens and local communities were forced to manage the burial and grieving process themselves. Before any organized national holiday, the practice of decorating graves began out of raw, desperate necessity in scattered towns across a deeply fractured country. One of the earliest documented community memorials occurred in Charleston, South Carolina in 1865. Formerly enslaved African Americans organized a massive parade to honor 257 Union soldiers who had died in a nearby prison camp. Around the same time, women's groups throughout the South began placing flowers on the graves of both Confederate and Union soldiers, an early gesture of shared humanity in the wake of the violence. These localized acts of mourning caught the attention of General John A. Logan. He was the commander-in-chief of the Grand Army of the Republic, a powerful and highly influential fraternal organization of Union veterans. In 1868, Logan issued a formal proclamation establishing Decoration Day as a nationwide observance for his members to honor their fallen comrades. He specifically selected May 30th for a practical reason. It was the optimal time when spring flowers would be in bloom across the geographically diverse United States. Logan's mandate took the isolated, spontaneous grief of individual towns and organized it into the nation's first unified, systematic attempt at cultural healing. As the Civil War generation aged and died out, the nature of American combat shifted. The 19th century battlefield gave way to the mechanized, highly destructive reality of global warfare in the 20th century. During World War I, the red poppy emerged as an international symbol of remembrance, inspired by the poem In Flanders Fields. The staggering casualties in Europe triggered a major policy shift. Decoration Day was no longer strictly about the Civil War. It was officially broadened to honor all American military personnel killed in any conflict. The relentless sequence of conflicts that followed, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam, solidified this broader scope, continually producing new generations of fallen soldiers. As the scale of American warfare grew to a global footprint, the specific definition of the observance expanded to absorb a continuous cycle of loss. By the mid-20th century, the traditional fixed date of May 30th began creating logistical friction. The modern workforce increasingly favored continuous three-day weekends over midweek interruptions. In response, Congress passed the Uniform Monday Holiday Act in 1968, a measure specifically designed to create predictable three-day weekends for federal employees. This legislation officially and legally standardized the name of the holiday, shifting it permanently from Decoration Day to Memorial Day. When the law took effect in 1971, it detached the holiday from its historical May 30th anchor, moving it permanently to the last Monday in May. While the act successfully federalized the Day of Remembrance, it also intertwined the solemnity of military grief with the festive cultural kickoff of summer vacation. The casual reality of modern Memorial Day barbecues stands in sharp contrast to the immense, silent geometry of Arlington National Cemetery. Here, the 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment, known as the Old Guard, performs a grueling, meticulous ritual. They place a single American flag, exactly one boot length from the base of over 20,000 individual headstones. Nearby sits the tomb of the unknown soldier, a permanent physical representative for all service members whose bodies were never identified or recovered. The visual monuments are accompanied by a lone bugler playing taps, a 24-note melody that functions as the universal symbol of American military mourning. These acts of mourning are amplified on a national stage every year during the broadcast of the National Memorial Day concert at the U.S. Capitol. These highly formalized military rituals are actively maintained to serve as the nation's anchor. They prevent the original, grim purpose of the holiday from being entirely swallowed by summer celebrations. The tally of the fallen is not sealed in the past. Modern conflicts in places like Iraq and Afghanistan continue to demand the ultimate sacrifice from service members. Recognizing a growing public nonchalance toward the holiday's true meaning, Congress passed the National Moment of Remembrance Act in the year 2000. The legislation includes a specific instruction, a formal request for all Americans to pause and observe a unified moment of silence at exactly 3 p.m. Acknowledging the human cost of war does not invalidate the celebration of American life. Rather, it puts the privilege of that celebration into stark perspective. Memorial Day serves as the physical price tag of American history. It is the essential annual act of a nation acknowledging that beneath the freedom of the present lies the terminal courage of generations past.